All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you once again for joining us. And for those of you who probably will be catching on the replay of this conversation, of this podcast, we say you're welcome. Again, this is the Wealth Bridge podcast. My name is Majipe, and I don't get to do this alone. We're back like we never left. I'm always going to have my very close pals here with me on this section, on this podcast to run this show. How are you doing, wonderful people? How are you doing? Demola,
Blessed and
Demola,
highly favored. Blessed and highly favored. It's good
wonderful,
to have you on, Mother Pay.
wonderful. Thank you, Demola. And how are you doing, Demola?
I'm doing great. It's
Okay,
great to be back.
wonderful.
And thank
Both
God
of
for
you
the
look so
beautiful weather.
shiny. Both of you, your faces are just shining, and it's like you know how they tell you you have to tell us the secret of your radiance. I know it's God, and I know it's not shea butter. You know what I mean? So it's not shea butter. It's also the goodness and the blessings of God out there. All right, let's get straight to the point.
Yes,
All
yes.
right, family, community members, we are here again. We are here to deliver a very, very mind blowing, pivotal topic, which we know that will be a blessing to you, will be a blessing to us, even also listening and unveiling this out there to our community members. And when we say community members, we're primarily focusing on what immigrant families. These are families that have flown, several oceans, miles to come here to find greener pasture here in diaspora. So, welcome to today's topic. And the conversation is nothing but estate planning. I
Mm,
call it 101
mhm.
for immigrant family. Okay, so many of us will probably have heard of estate planning, in one form, shape, or manner, maybe just through certain, social media reels or shorts. And we probably be like, or some of us are probably taking the time to research a little bit more on it. Don't worry, calm down. These two gentle, wonderful individuals, amiable partners of mine, would do justice to this topic tonight and this very, very moment. And why did I say that? Because the three of us, we are, estate planning strategists working alongside with attorneys across the industry, helping our clients on a day-to-day affair in the area of estate planning. This is such an important topic, if you ask me, because many immigrant families are working very hard. You will agree with me on that.
Yeah.
Incredibly hard, too, to build stability. Many of them are acquiring assets, raising children, creating better future, yet far too many are doing all of this
Mm,
without a clear plan to protect what it is they are building. And that is the disturbing part. We're not bearers of bad news, people, but we just would like to make sure we unveil the reality so that we can start looking into it more methodically. Many families are building wealth, just like I said, but they are not protecting that wealth.
mm,
They are buying homes, they are opening businesses, they are taking up life insurance policies, they are investing for the future, they are supporting their loved ones here in diaspora, also across the ocean. But if something unexpected should happen to them today, the families may be left unprotected,
mm.
in confusion, having to face court delays, probate, family disputes, unnecessary financial stress. So, for immigrants especially, this conversation carries even more weight because they are often cross border responsibilities, cultural assumptions, and the 9 years. So, today on this episode, I'll have my wonderful partners, Adebola and Debola. They will be diving and addressing certain questions that will touch base on this topic, estate planning. Estate planning. We're going to be able to break the myths. We will provide practical values that you and I can run with, that someone there can run with, and start doing the needful. Rome was never built in a day. So take your time and listen up. I'm going to throw it down to any one of them. Feel free to take a bite at this, whoever is ready to do that. Okay. So for those who may be hearing this term for the very first time, And they're asking estate planning, what are these people bringing before us, right? What exactly is estate planning, and why is it so important for the immigrant families?
Yeah, I'll go.
Go ahead.
And it's great to have all our viewers on again, today. And I believe that everybody's doing well. But
Yeah.
estate planning is something that we don't talk a lot about, especially in our community. And I think it's high time that we bring, topics like this, to the forefront of, the diasporan community. And why is this so important? It's because a lot of us, we've come across borders, across the oceans, and we start building wealth. But unfortunately, we have never really learned how to transfer that wealth. So what is estate planning? Estate planning is basically a process, of putting legal and financial structures in place to make sure your wishes are honored if you become incapacitated or you pass away. Could you imagine how many people build wealth? They have assets, they have companies, but they never had a strategy of transferring that wealth to their family. And guess what? If you don't have a plan, guess who's got a plan for you? Uncle Sam's got a plan for you. So estate planning basically covers, how your assets are handled. You know, it talks about who makes the decision. Do you have do you have a help proxy? Do you have somebody who's gonna be there, to help you decide on how everything needs to be taken care of? Who's gonna take care of that your children? Especially if they're minors. How do you avoid family, unnecessary confusion and hardship? And for most of us who are immigrants, if we think about from most of our countries that we're coming from, we'll see that most times when somebody passes away, especially the breadwinner, we start to see a lot of confusion and a lot of fighting. And that's why estate planning is something that has been put in place, especially in this space, in this North American, that at least we could speak on the North American basis, because here we're in the United States. So estate planning for immigrant families is so crucial, and it's important because as we continue to build wealth, it allows us to be able to transfer that wealth to our families the way we want it. And this is something that is very key, and we need to talk more about it so that we can transfer that wealth to our loved ones and to the next generation.
Thank you very much, Demola. And I know this might be very, very sensitive topic, okay, viewers. But to be honest with you, it's high time we got started, unleashing this particular, topics, especially to members of our community. You're not going to wait until later to start addressing certain things. And it's for a reason. Okay. And so it's so much important that you lay the foundation, because of a lot of people, they hear estate planning and immediately assume it does not apply to them. They just say, what, that's not for me. Oh, that is outside of my scope. Oh, that is beyond my scope, But this leads us naturally to the next question. Debola, since Demola, kind of opened up, I'd like for you to take this on, Debola. Why do you think so many immigrant families, they delay this so-called subject of estate planning, even though they are very clear, right, that they are constantly building assets, putting together all these responsibilities, creating a life for themselves here in diaspora? Why do they delay till later, or they don't even ever talk about it?
All right, let's talk about that. And just before I continue, I just want to make sure that you can hear me clearly.
Now we can hear you.
It looks like my microphone was going in and out.
We can hear you
that's
now.
great.
But we can.
So why do many?
But we can hear you.
Okay. So why do so many immigrant families delay estate planning? There are several reasons, for this. And I'm just going to mention some of the very common ones. Let's be practical about this. Apart from the fact that talking about things like that, being disabled is something that's we don't really talk about in our community. It's not something that people freely discuss. But there are also other reasons why this happens. Many immigrant families delay estate planning. It's not because they don't care, but because of the mixed mindset, because of our culture and some some practical barriers. There's the it's too early mindset. Many feel estate planning is only for the wealthy or elderly, not realizing that it's really about protection and not just assets. It's about protection. The slightest thing that, oh, you have to put your house in order. People think, oh, no, I'm not going anywhere yet. But that's not what it's about. So that is too early mindset. We have to erase that. The earlier we start, the better. There is also the cultural discomfort around death, like I mentioned before. In our culture, talking about death feels like a negative thing. People will even tell you, oh, over my dead body. Those are the kind of things that you're going to hear. That it's not, that's not my portion, or they believe it's a taboo in some places. They don't talk about death while you are alive. So the conversation keeps getting pushed off, and it shouldn't be. It's something that we need to sit down, discuss, and face the reality. What's going to happen is going to happen, all right? And also, we focus on immediate survival and growth. That's something. One of the reasons, we just our focus is, what I need to achieve now. When you are building from scratch, sending money home sometimes, and raising kids, working multiple jobs, those are the things that our minds are on. Planning for the what if doesn't really matter. They don't feel urgent. So we are focusing on meeting the needs now. I'm not even like, I don't have a roof over my head. I've not bought my dream home. You are telling me to put money away till when? So that also needs to be considered. There is also the lack of awareness or education. Some simply don't know what estate planning is, what it involves, or how simple parts of it can be, can help them. So we need to bring that awareness to people, educate them, and let them know what it is and how they can actually get started. So other thing is things like trust, trust in the system. Some people don't even trust the system enough to want to put their money anywhere, not even in a bank. It's true. And sometimes we just assume that family will figure it out later on. That is very, very dangerous. Very dangerous. We need to put plans in place. Please do not. That last one is very dangerous. Don't assume that your family will figure it out later on. A lot of some families suffer after the breadwinner is gone. And even not just people that don't have, even the rich ones, the wealthy ones. And we see a lot of conflicts among wealthy children, families over the estates of their parents. So these are some of the reasons I can bring out today, and we should be aware of them. Thank you, Modupe.
Thank you very much for, putting all that out to the table. And to be honest, we're not calling anyone out here. We're not labeling or, calling names and whatnot. But we're just saying these are the things. These are most of the reasons why many of us will literally tell ourselves and say, yes, that is the reason why I am not going to consider estate planning at this point in time, because I don't see it as very, very imperative for me to pursue. And delaying all of these things could be very costly, just like we heard Debola said. So let us talk about what often goes wrong, Demola, when families keep putting all of this off. What are some of the common estate planning mistakes immigrant families end up making? Be as practical as you could be. We have several cases that we've been exposed to in the journey of our career when we sit down with our client, and then we end up seeing that certain things we probably try to guide them against, right, end up becoming the reality, which is not something we want to, which is one of the reasons we're pushing this out. And by the way, this is still April, and it's still National Financial Literacy Month. We need to be aware and to do the needful. So please, Demola, help us and What are some of those common estate planning mistakes immigrants make by delaying and not doing anything about this?
Well, I mean, like we say, one of the mistake is we most often assume that the verbal conversations that we're having is enough. We just feel like, oh, okay, if I just tell my son that, when I pass on, this is what's going to happen. Well, if I have three children, me just verbally saying my first child is going to have this is not enough, because after one passes on, then guess what? They start to fight. So you having just a verbal conversation with your family is not enough. It's always important to document things legally, put them in a writing. And I think that's one of the first mistakes that we make. So once something is not legally documented, and it becomes difficult for those wishes, to be honored the way you want it. Because now people can say, you know what? No, I'm the one that he loves more. I'm the one that, and that's where the fighting starts from.
I'm
And
the
we can
favorite
see this
child.
happen so many times, even in our community. So that's one of the very number one common ways. Another one is just basically, you just, thinking a simple will is enough in every situation. Most times we've seen that estate planning goes beyond will, because most times your will is a public record and people could still contest that could still go through probate. And if it goes through probate, then that causes problem for the family, because now you have to go through probate court, you have to wait, and everything is not spelled out the way you want it. Your wishes are not carried out the way you want it. So depending on what your own asset looks like or what your planning looks like, a will is just not enough. We could sit down with you to really go through, depending on what kind of assets you have, to kind of like look at the right estate planning strategy that you need, in your own peculiar case. So for everyone, it's going to be different. Another thing that I could think of is, failing to update your beneficiary designations, and especially if you have a life insurance policy, your retirement accounts, investment accounts. It's very important that we constantly update these things from time to time, because
That's
there are
right.
times whereby you might change the beneficiary. Most times, or sometimes, you might not even want your direct children, your heirs, to be the beneficiary. you know, we've seen people that they've added people who are not directly linked to them as beneficiaries in their policies or in their retirement accounts. So remember, nobody tells you how you're going to designate how you want, and that's why the estate planning is important, so that you can legally document the things, how you want those things distributed or how you want it to go to those beneficiaries. So this is another common mistakes of not updating your beneficiaries, the designations you want, not putting them in writing or updating them. Another one is not planning for incapacity. you know that's a big one. It's not just about what happens when someone dies. What about if the person has a medical issue,
Mm.
and how do they, we could talk about healthcare proxy, power of attorney. Who takes care of that person? God forbid if the person becomes paralyzed. Who's going to be the person who takes care of their affairs? How would that those shots be called? If they have a health issue, maybe the person's on life support. Who calls the shot on whether they pull the plug or they don't pull the plug? you know
Mm-hmm. L directives. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So as little and as minute as we think these things sound, these are
Very
things that
important.
cause serious
Important.
reasons, serious problems, especially in the diasporan community. And this is not just only in the diasporan community, but because we're more focused on our community. And guess what? The reason we say our community is now we've adopted a new land, a foreign land.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, how important is it for you to understand how the system of that foreign land works? If you want that foreign land to work in your favor and not against you. So it's important and it's very imperative that we understand how the laws work in in the economy that we're in. For immigrant families, one more mistake is ignoring foreign assets or overseas obligations. If those are not addressed properly, the estate plan may be incomplete. So there's so many things, but for the sake of time, these are some of the things. And people could put in their comments, and like Modupe rightly said in the beginning, we're all we are estate planning strategists, and we could also help you out in these areas. So you could definitely put your comment, and if you need to speak to us more, we could definitely take a deeper dive.
Demola, thank you very much. You opened quite a few, not necessarily kind of warm, you opened up sort of areas that I would like for us to not necessarily just sweep away, but I would like for us to look into it. When we talk about this estate planning, even though I'm saying it's 101, for our immigrant family, you said it. It's not necessarily for us alone. If you reside in the diaspora here in the United States of America, you are also governed by those laws, right? Because you are not living in isolation. So it's still going to come to you. It's going to come for you. So you can as well, work towards getting prepared. So you gave those powerful pointers, okay? Especially because many people think just having a document. I sat down with clients and they tell me, don't worry about me. I already have a will. You talked about it. Any will, it's contestable in the court of law. Yeah. Now, if you are that person that would love your business right there in the public space, maybe will is properly designed for you. But if you think you don't want your affairs in the public space, then you might start looking into something else. And that throws back to the next question. It brings us back to the next question, which usually confuses a lot of members. And I know Debola is going to help do justice to that. Debola, what is the difference between a will and a trust? Why should families understand this difference?
All right. Let's talk about that. Difference between a will and a trust. I was just checking my note, and to be able to, so I can give you a simple definition just for us to understand. So a will is a legal document. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an attorney, but I know a will is a legal document, and it actually outlines who should receive your assets and who will care for your children after you pass away. It only takes effect after death and usually goes through probate. That's one thing that we should know. So, and that probate is a court process that can take time and become public, but that is what a will is in a simple way. And then we talk about trust. A trust, on the other hand, is a structure that holds your assets and can manage or distribute them during your lifetime and after death. And trusts often, avoid probate. So keeping things private and allowing more control over how and when assets are passed on. That is the work of a trust. So why this matters for families, especially immigrant families? A will says who gets what. A trust helps control how and when they get it. A trust can help you to avoid delays and legal complications, especially across borders. If you want your asset, your estate to get to your children or your family on time, then a trust will do that. It could take a long time before a will actually is executed because of probate. So you might even have what it takes. You might have what you need, to take care of your family, but might be locked in a will for a long time. So a trust provides continuity and protection if something happens to you, not just after death, but even during incapacity, like Demola mentioned. So it helps ensures your intentions are carried out clearly without burdening your loved ones. So a will is a plan, but a trust is a strategy. So understand both of them will help our families protect what they are building and pass it on with clarity and control, so that there won't be any conflict and there won't be any arguments or disagreements or problems later on. That's what I have for you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I like the fact that you said a will is a plan while a trust is a strategy. And I think another thing you mentioned is how costly and very expensive it is for you to go through probate. A very good example, and any one of us audience, okay, you could check that out. A very famous, actor that starred in Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman, who passed on. He died even without a will. You need to go check out and see how much, right, was, paid out, all the legal fees, because he didn't have a will, not to even talk of even him having a trust. So things, every of his estate had to go through probate. Thank you very much for that clarity, Debola. I hope somebody caught it. I hope it was very helpful for you to make a decision what needs to be done. That clarity is very helpful now that people hear those things. Demola, if someone is saying, I am not wealthy yet, you're saying go get a trust, or don't do a will, or do this, do that, start your estate planning, right? I am not wealthy, so I don't think I need an estate planning. What would you say to them?
I mean, often it's a huge misconception, because that's the misconception. A lot of people believe that a trust is only for wealthy people, which that's actually is just a myth. Most often, more than often, if you have children, you still need guardianship planning for them. Who takes care of those children, when you're not there, or even if you become incapacitated. We talked about that before. You still need guardianship planning for them. If you have life insurance, you have savings, you have all these, retirement accounts. How do you want those things to be housed properly? How do you want those things to be legally put together without somebody else telling your family how those things are, how to be disseminated or how to be carried out, without you putting a proper structure in place? So you don't have to be wealthy to have a life insurance. You don't have to be wealthy to have a home. You don't have to be wealthy to have a retirement account. You could even have a small business. You already have something worth protecting. My question to our audience is your family worth protecting? If something were to happen to you right now, who is going to be your healthcare proxy? How do they decide what to do when that challenge comes? Do you have a power of attorney put in place? So you don't have to be wealthy to have all these things. So even if what you have today is just modest, your wishes still matters. Estate planning just protects your family from unnecessary stress. Why would you want your family to go through probate costs? People telling them what to do, and you going over it 2-3 years at times. It's a painstaking process that you don't even want your family to go through. You've already worked hard enough. Why do you want somebody to decide how what you've worked hard for, that thing should be, how it should be executed to your family? Who should make medical decisions on how your loved ones should be supported? The goal is not to wait until life becomes complicated. I want us to remember that. The goal is to prepare while you have clarity and you can take control of your current position.
I like that. I said it, that this topic is broad. And I'm sure we're going to revisit this conversation, another time. But we wanted to make sure we throw it out there to the audience. We wanted to make sure our community members are thinking along this line. And in just 1, 2, 3 seconds, Debola, for families listening to us today, and they're just saying, I'm very overwhelmed. I don't know what you guys are talking about. You guys are what? Estate planning, what again? Strategists, what? What are the first steps you're going to tell those people, Debola? What are the first steps they should take to begin estate planning journey?
I'm going to say that estate planning doesn't, for anyone that may be feeling overwhelmed, wondering what to do, it actually begins with clarity, and small intentional steps. get clear on what you have and who you are protecting. List your assets, bank accounts, property, insurance, and identify your key priorities, especially your children and family, whether you're abroad. So that's the first step. Then decide on guardianship for your children. This is one of the most important first decisions that most of us don't even think about. Who will step in immediately if you couldn't? Right? Number 3, start with a basic will. You don't need a complex plan to begin. Start with a basic will. A simple will ensures your wishes are legally recognized. Then you can move on to getting your things into a trust. It's very important. Don't stop at a will, but you can start with a basic will. And also consider life insurance as protection. It creates immediate financial support for your family, especially if you are the primary provider. So life insurance is very important. Choose trusted decision makers, the people that are going to execute whatever you're leaving behind, the will, the trustees. Make sure those are the people that you can trust. And don't forget to speak to a professional. You need to talk to people, somebody that is going to help you to prepare those documents. And like Demola mentioned, if you need help, we can direct you. We can the way what to do and all that. All right. And don't forget to have this conversation with your family and your friends and your loved ones. It's very important.
That's true. Thank you very much. I like the fact you said, seek help with professionals. A lot of our community members love to do this DIY. Do it yourself, do it yourself. Don't go and do
Auntie Rashida.
Don't go and do something yourself and then you find yourself to blame. You know what? It's a broad conversation. It's a sensitive conversation, but it's actually a very deep life decision making, pointer that we need to still address in a space of our life. We're going to be wrapping up right now. And one thing stands out clearly in all of this conversation that we had today. It's just not for the wealthy people. To be honest, it's not. And it's not something immigrant families should keep postponing. Procrastination. No, don't do that. Okay. It's a rude assumption that God owes you tomorrow what you should be doing today. It's a vital part of protecting everything that you've worked so hard for. Wherever you're building life back home in, wherever you came from, your country, or building life even here in the US. It's about making sure that your loved ones are not, unprotected. That not only do they see the sacrifice you've worked for while you were here, it's about making sure that your family is not left with confusion when they should be left with clarity. Demola talked about it. They stressed it. And we cannot talk about it enough. Because legacy is not just what you leave behind. Okay? It's how well you have prepared the people you love to carry it forward. And until when we come your way another time, leave in the comment box questions for us. If you think you have, a need to sit down with, a licensed attorney, right? Reach out to any one of us. We will be able to guide you. We will guide you to starting that journey right now, not until later. Get informed, be aware, and do the needful. It's been amazing, wonderful people. Demola and Debola, thank you so much for your knowledge, for the nuggets you've shared. I hope the members of the audience community have been able to take something, on this. And until we come your way another time, it is still the Wealth Bridge.
Yes.
Let's keep growing. Bye for now.
We love you. Take care, audience. Take care. All right, Debola and Modupe. Take care. All righty.